let's peel it back now to the young and upcoming ballers that we've talked about and we touched on last time we spoke was Dyson Daniels and Josh Giddey. I mean, even since we last spoke, Bogues, what we've seen these two do in the league, I mean, and look at Giddey's game winner against LA the other day, right? Like, these guys are growing into like established, not only Australian basketball players, but NBA players now in the league. I want to hear your opinion again on where the future of the Boomers sits with these two starting in the backcourt for years to come.
It's super bright. I think Josh Giddey's 6 weeks post All-Star break are probably the best run Australians had in NBA history as far as numbers. I think he's averaging a triple-double pretty much. And with scoring numbers too. He's had some 20, 30-point games. So it's a short run, but if he can sustain that, the sky's the limit for him. And then Dyson, he's grown before our very eyes. Josh was probably ahead of him. Rookie season starting out, Josh was probably a little bit ahead. But, yeah, the fact that Dyson is just continuously getting better every game. Atlanta's in the mix now in a play-in/playoff push. So, yeah, it's gone really well, and you got to be super excited having them as your 1-2, And defensively, both super long. Giddey's not known as a defender, but he's big, he's long. He can actually play multiple positions out there, and you can cross-match him sometimes against a 3 or a 4, and Dyson's the same, So, we as a Boomers, former Boomers player, we love the fact that we've got two guys leading our future that are going to hopefully Brisbane and beyond.
Absolutely. Did you ever feel or were you hesitant at all with these two? I mean, when you're young and you're getting the pressure of the world put on you, and you've got all this potential that people are talking about, right? But you're not quite meeting just yet. Did you ever have any, I guess, hesitancy with these guys, or were there any parts of their game that you're now seeing that they've essentially dispelled and gotten over and allowed themselves to really cement themselves as not only huge Boomers to come, but really, really forces to be reckoned with in the NBA?
Yeah, the big thing for both those guys is the 3-ball. They're so good. They're so good at getting 2 feet in the paint. At times, teams will, especially in a playoff series, teams will sometimes mess with them a little bit and put maybe a 5-man on them and dare them to shoot the 3, just have the 5-man wait in the paint. We saw that with Josh in OKC a couple of seasons ago. So, and I think Josh, he's around 37% from 3 on the season, which is where you want to be. If you're 37%, you can't. That's a above average number. You can't disrespect him, and they only need to knock down 1 or 2 at a decent clip to get that respect. Where now you have to come up to the 3. At least be close enough, we can get a contest on their 3, and then that opens their game up immensely. Then they can go off the dribble, and they're just so effective at getting in the paint and facilitating for other guys. Even Dyson, his assist numbers have skyrocketed this season as well. The ball's in his hands more. Play Trey at the 2, sometimes off the ball. So I love it. I think it's, but that's the one thing that we've seen it now in a small bunch with Giddey when it's firing and he's shooting at a decent clip. This last 6 weeks is proof of that. He's going to have triple-double numbers. It's sometimes the shot goes missing a little bit. He's still young, and that's when the confidence issue becomes a little bit of a factor for Josh and Dyson. So, but they're fearless guys. Like, that's what you respect about both of them. Sometimes they're over 4, over 5. They'll keep shooting it and, let the chips fall where they may.
100%. Outstanding seasons they're both having. Let's talk on Giddey a little further with this trade. When this happens, Giddey for Caruso, it was a little up in the air. Who won this trade, right? Would you say now with the season that Giddey's having that the Bulls potentially won this trade?
I think so, yeah. But it's just fit. Giddey would not have that opportunity in OKC. They got SGA, they got other guys that demand the ball. He's not going to have the ball. He's not going to be a high usage guy. He's gone to a pretty bare bones Chicago roster as to where it is now. Obviously, moving off Levine and DeRozan. Where you're our guy. I like what Chicago's done. They've said we're going to see what you got this season, and then we're going to act accordingly beyond that. And I think now the act accordingly is probably going to be a max contract, right?
Yeah.
So, but they did it the right way, and you're our guy. You're going to get most of the usage, and he's done a phenomenal job with that. And Buzelis as well. They got some talented guys on that roster, some young guys that can come in and cause some problems over the next 4 or 5 years if they keep that young crew together. So I think he's a max guy now at this point. In Chicago, you've probably seen enough and said, like, we can build around this. This is a franchise piece, and that's a credit to Josh Giddey. Especially with everything he's gone through, off-court issues, which we don't need to discuss.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That's tough for a young guy. Being not quit on, but it felt like OKC just spat him out, and just said, we don't value you here. We don't think you can do it. And then he goes, kind of has a quiet off season, gets in the gym, works hard, and now he's, playing at an elite level right now. So you love to see those stories, and it's a credit to him and his psyche.
Huge credit to him. Yeah, and you said it there yourself. You think that he's going to be getting that max contract. What about Dyson in free agency as well? What do you think these guys are going to be looking after and try and fetch for money wise? Like on Dyson's side of things. I guess we touched on Giddey, but yeah, on Dyson's side,
going to get a big number as well. I don't think it's going to be the max, but he's going to get a big number. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. I'm calling it. I think he's. There's no way he loses it.
100%.
Steals numbers are just insane, and it's not just statistically. You look at the analytics around deflections and scoring usage of guys that he's guarding. It's not pretty for guys that have to go against him when he's guarding them. Their numbers drop off immensely. So he's going to win that, and he's going to be touted as one of the most valuable defenders in the league. And now that his offense is starting to, generally you see in the NBA, elite defensive players aren't average, if not below average offensive players, or just 3-and-D guys. He's more than that. So now that his offense is growing before our very eyes, I think being a multi-dimensional player these days in the NBA is super useful. So he's going to get 20, 30, 40, somewhere in that range, probably 20 to 30, if I'm guessing. And it's going to be, it's well-deserved.
Well-deserved. How awesome do you think it would have been, Bogues, for you back in your day to be playing alongside these two? Would you have loved to have played beside Josh Giddey and Dyson Daniels with the green and gold?
100%, and that's the interesting thing with the Boomers, and this is no disrespect to the squads we've had, but generally at times we've had elite bigs and then not quite had the elite guards, and this is probably the most balanced we've been with Jock, but then there's still got to find that next big, and now we've got the elite guards, and you got to find a bit more elite bigs. So it'd be nice to get a phase where we can get both connecting nicely, but it's getting there. Our guards are there. We've got some decent wings, and Matisse. Hopefully puts the green and gold on again, and a few other guys, and yeah, I think the big part now, because Jock's there, but he's getting old, getting older. What's down the pipeline?
Getting old, it's crazy. It's
going to be I'm talking like Brisbane and beyond. Everyone's looking at Rocco. We need him to really develop over the next couple of years and see where that all goes. But the bigs, we've got to find a few. I mean, you got Condon out in the college system as well, who should be involved in the national team pretty soon as well. So let's hope we find some in the next couple of years to group them up with those elite guards and wings. We've got a chance.